I have existed from the morning of the world, and I shall exist until the last star falls from the heavens. Although I have taken the form of Caius Caligula, I am all men as I am no man, and so I am a god.
Welcome to the Real Sharks podcast. It is your host, Rob, of course. And let me just say,
friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears.
Because I'm also here with my fellow Roman, Steve.
Yo.
And I guess we could consider her lower on the tier because she's a woman. My cousin, Donna. Hi, Donna.
Yeah.
And of course, our very guest host today from the Happy Hour podcast, Ray.
Hail! Hail! Hail!
Yes, what's up, man? Of course, Happy Hour Podcast, of course, right here on Pod Nation TV. Make sure you check that out.
Thank you for plugging that, Ray, so I don't have to. So we're going to be discussing one of the most controversial films in the history of cinema. Some people call it smut. Some people call it genius. People like my co-host Steve think it's a distracting movie. But we're going to talk about on this Let's Talk About, we're going to be discussing Caligula. All right, guys. So everyone here has watched this movie. I know Steve has, but let me just tell our listeners for those who haven't seen it. So Caligula is a 1979 erotic historical drama film about the rise and the fall of the most controversial emperor, besides Nero, would be Caligula. So this starred Malcolm McDowell, of course, and it's directed by Tito Brass. Yes, the Tito Brass. I'm going to butcher some of these names. Giannico Lou and Bob Gassoni, and of course the Bob Gassoni. It was actually produced by Penthouse Films, so just let that everybody set that in right now.
Right.
So first,
it was produced by Penthouse. I would have never been able to tell watching that.
Right.
There was
Right,
no way anyone could tell.
It says it in the credits.
Yeah.
Oh, we're supposed to watch those?
Yeah.
Yes, in some point, yes. All right, so let's do what we always do, and let's go around the table and just real quick, what does everyone think about Caligula? I'm actually going to go, I already know Steve's opinion because he already has heard this time and time again. So yeah. I'm going to say real quick, and before we actually review it ourselves, Donna, what did you think of the movie?
To be honest, I made an hour into it before I said I can't watch no more of this.
Okay.
But I made it an hour, while I was trying to go to sleep. Not a movie to watch while you're trying to go to sleep. No.
No, it's not.
No. I'm gonna have to agree with a lot of people that I did research on it with, but it's for the time it pushed buttons.
It still pushes buttons.
It does.
Yeah. Doesn't sit right with a lot of people.
Time for them coming out in 79, it was pushing the envelope. Now it's kind of like, okay, if someone makes it now, they're like, okay, whatever. Then not so much. Would I watch it again? Absolutely fucking not.
I've seen it several times.
Okay.
Ray, real quick, what did you think of the movie? Did you like it?
Oh, dude, yeah, I definitely liked it. And the thing is me reviewing that movie and the way I see the movie, trust me, is not the way you guys or anybody else has seen that movie. Because if anybody has seen my show and knows the way I think, and Rob, you know this, you've been on my show, you know me, I don't take notes for shit. And I have notes right here of things that I wanted to remember. And I was like, that son of a bitch made me take notes. You didn't make me take notes, but I took notes because there were things I look at it as when you watch that movie, you feel a whole train of emotions. You're sad, you're happy, you're angry. But that's the emotions I felt for certain things in the movie. It makes no sense on why I feel those things for those things, but I felt every sense of emotion I could possibly feel. Okay. And I'll get into that a little bit once we start rocking and rolling with it. But no, I liked it. It was good. You could tell that it had that kind of 1970s, we kind of don't give a fuck type, feel to the movie. What was I remembered it earlier, Last House on the Left, that was made in the 1970s. Mm-hmm. That was a very brutal horror.
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that was very brutal for what it was. That was made in the 70s. You look at a lot of that stuff, and I mean, that just basically was like, hey, we're straight up doing smut and mixing it in with a movie, and we don't give a fuck.
Okay. Steve, I already know, but go ahead and fill the audience in for what you think about this movie.
Yeah, I pretty much a culmination of everybody what they've said. For anybody who doesn't know, me and the host Rob here have talked about this movie and doing this film as a review for what years and years, like a decade now, probably, right?
Right.
And now we're here talking about it, and it's a weird concept because like Ray has mentioned and Donna has mentioned, like these movies are it's a 70s movie, right? So anything made in the 70s, it's a very prolific time. Like a lot of things were coming out pushing the envelope. Like you were Ray mentioned the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that came out like in the mid 70s. This one came at the end, and it is weird to kind of like, you know, it's Michael McDonald's film, right? He started the 70s with a little film that we've reviewed called The Clockwork Orange, and then he ends the decade.
Yeah.
You're also
with,
forgetting about
Caligula.
We with We as well, which is another controversial film we
Yes.
haven't been able to get into,
Oh,
which is about one of the very first school shooting films.
Mhm.
But that's another for another day.
Yeah, but this is a crazy film. But I, you know, you push past the shock and awe of what you see, and
You mean the sex?
yeah, the whole like the everything, dude.
The
like,
endless sex? Is that what you're
The
talking
stuff
about?
that I see every day when I research my own show. And
Yeah.
not even research my own show, just in general.
Yeah, I don't know how much of a bad guy I am, but there is a scene for anybody who hasn't seen it where there's like slow-mo throw up. And I just thought, when did Zack Snyder make films in the 70s? Why isn't
That's where he
just
got the
slow-mo?
inspiration for 300. Was straight
Right.
up off Caligula, but it was all
Saw
like,
the
you know,
horse
because he was
scene and
watching
he was
those really bad scenes, and he was like, "Wouldn't that the whole movie be good like that?"
Yeah. Yeah, Rob, you saw that horse scene, and he was just like, I got it, Justice League. But yeah, I think this is solid. It's definitely a 70s kind of grit, kind of, you know, we're just gonna do what we want. But yeah.
Michael McDowell's mentioned that too. That's kind of one of his only takes about Caligula is that it was edgy because it was made in the 70s.
It was made
And
in the 70s.
and it was like he even says, "Hey, you know, I did it. Whatever." It's
Right. And Helen
that's
Mirren
kind of his
kind of
take,
has the same
in a
take.
nutshell.
She's like, it's okay, yeah, we did it in the 70s. We were young. That's what happens. You know what I mean? People pushing the envelopes. So there are worse films out there.
So I'm going to give my take on it and kind of kick off into what was really controversial about the film and some things. So I think the film is genius, honestly. It really is to me. And, you know, here's going to be my controversial movie take out there for my listeners. So here you go. Here's going to be a short for you. This movie is actually more historically accurate than fucking Braveheart. I'll tell you that.
Oh my goodness.
I will tell you that. As much as like some people are gonna be like, did he just say that? Yes, this movie actually plays pretty loosely, but pretty close to the actual real story of Caligula.
Mhm.
And the way I see it is, in a way, the way Ray probably sees it, in kind of a mirror way, because I know how Ray sees it. But for me, you know, the sex and everything that happens in there, because the reign of Caligula is considered chaotic.
Yeah.
And the life of Tiberius. You know that, Steve.
Mhm.
You're a history major.
Yeah.
You know, and basically, you know, a lot in that movie is directly off of history, and some people think it's so fucking outrageous, but it's like that is really what happened.
Yeah.
So when, like, example, ladies and gentlemen, when he's in there and he's calling those people his my little fishies, and there's all those naked guys around there, naked girls jumping in, that was something reported that Tiberius really did on Capri. He was supposedly telling, like, he called them his minnows.
Yeah.
And what's even
accurate.
worse, and what's worse about that is it was actually children. So they actually, in a way, toned it down in this movie.
Yeah,
Freddy
Oh,
Krueger
really?
wasn't a child molester in this one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And see, the way I see it is all the sex that happens in there. Like, so like when he's walking through that whole maze of all the people having sex with the woman with the three faces, and everyone's like, you know, on all those machines and stuff like that. Do you hear what he's talking about? It's really kind of reflective of the real Tiberius, because he's sitting there going, "Do you see?" He's like, "Do you see them?" He's like, "They're living statues." And they're like, "Oh, living statues." He's like, "Yeah, they do more than that. They do." And he's like, "With more conviction." And they all start going harder and everything like that because he's insane. And then he goes into the whole speech. That's one thing I want to mention about this film. as much as the sex and the, the shock and awe really dominates the film, and I know I'm stealing it from Steve right now because this is his argument all the time, is even though it steals it, there is actually some great dialogue in this movie and some great like reflection on actual history, in my opinion, because and you actually look up this movie and compare it to what history buffs have said, and it is mixed. It is close to the real story. They even have Incantatus in there, the horse. The horse is one of the most realist things about Caligula, and he wanted to make it consul.
Yeah.
And it was
that horse was so upset at the end.
Yeah.
That was just such a sad horse.
That was a sad horse. That was real tragedy of the movie. See, Donna, where were you on that? Where were you for the horse, Donna? You're all about the animals. You don't care about that horse.
We are not going anywhere near animals with you guys. I've learned my lesson with Orca.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How beautiful that closing sequence was, and then at the end you just have the horse just running in sadness. Pretty much
It was
close
like
the movie.
Black Beauty, but white.
But right. I thought you were gonna say Black Swan. I was gonna be like, oh no.
Oh Jesus, no. No, but see, this movie, that's why I say when people tell me, like, did you ever see that movie Black Swan? It's controversial. It's like, I've seen Caligula. Trust me, that's fucking insane.
How about you watch this? Just put this on your TV.
Yeah. And here's where we're going to bring our special guest host in on this. Ray, when it comes to the erotic persona, the dimension of this movie, and that's what Tito Brass did. And if you've never seen his films, personally, I like them. And, like, I don't know, I can't speak for Steve because I think he's watched a few of them, but they're very sexual. And I might want to add, he wanted his name off this film because here's one of the more interesting, controversial things about this movie that kind of gives you an idea. And Donna, here it is for you. A lot of the sex stuff was filmed after the fact. See, Michael McDowell and all the actors had already done their pieces, and Penthouse came in and put all that stuff in there. That's why it seems like two films at times, because it is.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why there's so many hard cuts to like, just banter, and then like straight into like hardcore smut type stuff. It's like, whoa, that's pretty jarring.
It's art. In this case, art. Roman art.
Madman's head.
Hey, this movie gives the perfect personification of the Emperor with no clothes. When he's out there in the rain and he's like, Gemellus is here to kill me. And he's doing the whole like,
Didn't he kind of improv that himself, or like, wasn't it like his idea or something like that?
Yeah.
Even the dance in that movie is okay. So we should even back up here. I'm serious. This movie gets more things right, Steve, than a lot of historical pieces.
It does, yeah.
Everyone will probably, when they watch the movie, say, "Why are they calling him Little Boots?" Because that's what Caligula means. Yeah. That's what Caligula. It's little boots. That's why she calls him Little Boots. And it's like, wow, an erotic film can figure that out.
Right.
So I want to get Ray's take. Ray, when it comes to the erotic, edge of this movie, how do you take it? Like, is it would you clarify this as a clear erotic film, or is it like almost like a hybrid of a real film? And what do you think about this film on that? Because I know you see this kind of stuff a lot.
For a normal human being, I would say it's 100% an erotic film. For me, it's something I watched yesterday. Like that's just the whole thing. With doing my show and the caliber of guests I have on, I see a lot of like really weird, like bottom of the ocean, type stuff. But no, I'm glad you brought up
Donna.
The girl with the three faces, like sloth times 3, like that was going on down there. Because I was extremely upset that at no point that thing engaged in any of the sexual scenes. As soon as I saw that character, I was like, oh shit, things are going to get, I literally opened up a drink. I made a sandwich. I was like, this thing is going to be taking 3 dicks at one time. It has the 3 faces to do it. And it didn't happen. They showed her, and it was kind of like a tease. And I'm like, okay, well, that monster over there is kind of cool. But then, they just kind of showed her, but nothing much more happened. Even if it wasn't sexual stuff, but nothing much more happened with that character. It was just kind of there, and you're like, okay, that monster looks kind of cool, but what's going on there? And then, even as soon as the movie starts, they're running around in the woods, you see tits right off the back. So they basically ease you in.
Rome.
to all the
Didn't
stuff.
eat nothing into that movie. There was
You
no
didn't think?
anything.
Excuse me, Ray was talking, but did you not think 1 ounce of that was romantic? Some of it was romance, okay, in a weird incestual way, okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, here's the thing, and this is one thing. When I said you feel a big range of emotions watching this movie, and Rob, I told you this, and now everybody at home and everybody on the show are now going to hear this, is that I noticed throughout the whole entire movie, they built the whole love story between him and his sister, and like how he was in love
Drusilla.
with his sister and all that. And the whole time I'm sitting there watching this movie, and I'm like, are they going to do it? Like, when is it going to happen? When are we going to see the sex scene happen? And then, she dies. And I'm like,
Happened
well,
in
there
real
goes
life.
that.
Mhm.
And then he just starts kissing all over her dead body. I'm like, oh, shit, here it is. And I pull the lotion out and I'm getting ready. And I'm like, this post-mortem sex is just, it's going to happen. And then it doesn't. And he just freaks out. I'm like, they murdered this whole entire thing.
Oh,
Would
God.
it be considered incest after she died?
I don't,
Necrophilic incest.
yeah.
Nasty. See, you're gonna have to take a shower after this episode, our audience,
Yeah,
because
this,
this is a dirty one.
we're down deep in the ocean.
Hey,
here.
you asked me to comment. I'm like, well, I'm
Yeah.
drinking everything that comes along with my show.
I'm
along
fine.
with
I just didn't think my cousin here would be so like aghast.
it.
So we haven't gotten the real take here, which is from another man. I'm just kidding, Donna. So as a female, what? Okay, that's that look. Okay, what do you think of this film?
Like I said, I made an hour into it. Okay, him calling him his little fishies or whatever.
Minute, yeah, fishes, yeah.
That that was I don't know. It wasn't disturbing, but it was, because he had so many followers who are like, oh yeah, I'll live here and I'll do what you want, when you want, how you want. But then he's not even
That's
good looking.
really
He's
what
got
happened.
Yeah.
over his face, and I'm like, how? I'd rather go be poor, not living, and then have to deal with that every day, type of
Yeah.
thing. Like.
Do you want to hear a history fact, our audience? So when Tiberius got tired of people, and you can back me up on this, Steve, one of his favorite things to do was throw people off the top of Capri. Capri was a little island
It was,
that Tiberius self-exiled himself to, which is what that represents, because they're not in Rome originally. They're at Capri. That's what
They're at
that
Capri.
whole sex
That
thing
whole-
with the
Mhm.
pool is supposed to be.
That's why it's way, like in the beginning, they're like way away, They're,
And he's talking about, like, they miss you at Rome, sir. See, because
Yeah.
that is the actual historical
that's what's
part
going
about this
on.
movie. That's what's
Yeah.
really happened. So that's what's interesting about it.
If that palace, I will call it a palace, looked like that back then, I will give them props, because it
They're
was,
living statues.
I'm saying, living statues, the pool, everything was pretty well.
it looks
Or
good.
conviction, Donna. God damn it.
I'd say, see,
For
like,
that
as far as
era.
that, I'm with you, Donna. Like on that, like just if you look again, if you can find it within yourself, I'm speaking to the common folk that are just gonna watch this and be like, I don't know what this
That's
movie's
not
about,
right,
but I just
Rob.
know, right? And you're going to find it obviously go either two ways, like the Donna way, which is like, I just can't do it, which is fine. But then also people that are intrigued by the historical aspect, like how crazy were these Roman generals back then? It's like if you look at it like that and look at the tapestries, and then not even just that, just I'm glad that this was made in the 70s, because they had so many shots, Rob, that are so 70s. Like there's when they go in, there's like, it's full of red. There's a
Yeah.
like I like that, and it's like building the tone in the film and how the mannerisms of Michael.
I'm glad you
Donald
bring that
are-
up, because
it's spot on of how they
like
would
I
act.
said, outside what you would consider smut, there's some fucking art in this movie. There really is.
I
And
would
that's-
say it's good acting.
The acting does save it, but go ahead, Donna.
I was gonna say, that's like, my husband watched a part when they were hammering the stake into the woman or whatever, and then you see her, like another one whipping herself or whatever, and there's blood everywhere. And my husband's like, why the fuck are you guys talking about this? What the fuck? And I was like, it's based on history. This is based on what this
Yes.
dude did.
Do you know
He's
what art
The
was?
fuck? And I was, yeah.
It's
Like,
just like yeah.
farther past that, I think the last thing I remember is when they were checking the dude's eyes to see if he was dead or not. or whatever.
All right.
You know, my
That really
9-year-old
happened with macro and everything.
like,
That's
nope.
how he died.
Yeah.
That's how Tiberius died. And like I sent, I sent everybody here a documentary about it too. It's crazy how close the movie really is.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. Like Donna
So, like, I
brought
never
up.
got to finish it. So how did he die? Because I'm not a history major.
So the spoilers, our audience. So if you can't take this like Todd can, if you got to stop right here,
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you right now what happened because Ray kind of hinted at it, and it's one of the most saddest animal scenes that no one has ever. It's an underrated animal scene. It's close to like Lassie status. You know what I mean? So basically, and this really took place. Caligula basically goes up to he's just going somewhere, and basically the dude who was the head of the Praetorian, basically he shows him his ring and he's like, "What's the password?" And he's just like, I forget what he says, and then basically stabs him. And they all the soldiers, everyone just starts killing him. They take his daughter, bash her head up against the stairs.
By the way,
Then-
the way I laughed when he threw that little girl's face against that step is very disturbing on how hard I cackled when you saw that girl's face.
Because it's such a you can tell it's like a dummy, and they're like,
It's
"Hey,
a
just
dummy.
work with what we got. Work with what we got,
It's
okay?
like-
Make it
it's
look
like-
real."
It's the 70s. They're just like, who cares? If you're gonna be like, oh my god, it's like
You know what?
clearly see-
Or they were at this point, they're like, "Hey, if they've stuck around this long,
I
for
know,
the movie,
push it even harder.
they're not going to question it." Okay.
My oldest was asking what I
What?
was watching, and I
Well,
was
hold
trying
on.
to explain it
Hold
to
on,
her.
I didn't get to the saddest part. And then when the wife is dead, the child is dead, his whole, I guess you could say, cabinet is dead. They name his uncle Claudius as emperor. Really happened. And they then all of a sudden you see Incantatus coming up, and he's like all over Caligula because that horse lived a fantastic life.
Yes.
I mean, that horse was almost consul of Rome. I mean, that's an honor, man.
Oh god.
The part where he's laying down with them too is fucking great because I was just like,
when that happened, I was
how
like,
did
oh
they
my
get
god,
this horse to be so calm laying down? I was like, that's a good horse.
You can train horses pretty nicely.
Oh yeah, you've seen that one before.
It's funny, like Donna brought up like what the whole Minnow scene, like what was, I forgot the dude's name, the dude who he took the ring from. It actually in
Tiberius.
my okay, so he kind of looked like a crossbreed of the old guy from Pet Cemetery and the doctor from Reanimator. Like I could not unsee that, especially with the scabs on his face. And I was like I kind of clung to that dude.
Oh,
just
he
because of
does,
that.
huh?
Yeah, like
Now that I'm
I
thinking
just
about
see
it.
him
Oh,
with his
God.
head being carried around in the tray, just looking at breasts like like the whole time.
He's like, don't bring him
and-
back.
I know.
Yeah,
sometimes
He's gonna
it is
I
better.
wonder if all those babies are his.
Probably. And then they were being fed dick bananas.
Yeah.
And
Which
the
was-
cake just out on a silver platter. Like, listen here, I get these are made to freaking breastfeed, but can we not put them on a silver platter? That has to be
What?
uncomfortable.
Wait, and don't put tits on a silver platter?
Like
Yeah.
literally or figuratively?
Figuratively or literally?
Literally, like in the movie, she had like it was right when they introduced.
You saw that? That's incredible. That's a great idea.
Great idea.
Platter. She's got tits on each leg, and she's just got tits on a silver platter. And I'm like,
That's a
seriously?
great idea, Donna. That's a great idea. So
You
tits
just
on a
put the
silver
little
platter.
tin over it, you
So-
lift the tin part. There's
Anyone from my job sees this. I am not sorry.
So what Donna is saying is more tits on silver. That's what she's saying. Okay, back to our review. That's what she's saying.
Well, back to the like artistic part. What I felt like, and it was very brutal, but it was kind of like an art, like the way like they did, I guess, effects back then was the scene when he had the one guy and they tied up his dick and they like
Well, he drank
shoved
too much wine.
down his throat. And then they come back later and they stab him and he bleeds out. And then I think it's the same dude. They cut his penis, like the head of his penis off.
Yeah.
And mail it to somebody, like they're like mail his balls. Oh no, it was I'm mixing.
It was one of the guards who he basically went to his wedding and took his bride, which is what Caligula was known to do.
Yeah, and he's like
Yeah, see-
mail his balls and his whatever to his bride, and then like they fed like the tip of his. They gave just the tip to the dogs, and they're like, "Here you go, dogs. Like you can just."
I in that part too. When we were speaking about practical effects, I know they were great, but I'm not gonna lie. When they reached down and cut off that dude's like supposed dick, I was like, that is a waste of a scrumptious looking sausage. I must tell you that, because it looked like a practically a good bratwurst, perfectly good bratwurst, and they were like, nah, fuck it,
I was waiting for, and I can't remember his name, but the dude that had like the vagina looking thing on his fucking head the whole time. Like I was waiting for that dude to just pick it up and just shove that thing into there. And like he was like the most like, I guess, unappeased character there. And I'm like, dude, bone one of these people, man, woman, horse, whatever. Like just have yourself some fun. You look very miserable. Like, come on. Like all of this is in front of you. Enjoy, my man. Enjoy the fruits of your labor.
See, Donna, you need to follow that path right there. See, that you'd have a little bit more fun with this movie. Don't look at me like that.
Arizona.
Here's what is like so funny.
Yes, Steve, bring the normality back.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring the normality back, just because of people are like, God, is it so crazy? It's like, no, well,
yes.
The thing about it is, yes, it's crazy, right? But you have to think about the time of what happened, of when all of this was going on, and he was like, Caligula was very fearful. Like he was full of fear, a lot, like constantly. Yeah. As a matter of fact, yeah, he was like, didn't he serve? Like he went crazy, and
supposedly,
was like
and we're not going to get too far into it, but some people think he could be a victim of history, man, because he was 25 when he became the emperor. When you're 25, what are you going to do? Like one of the things that's not in this movie is he built what supposedly is the bridge to nowhere. Basically, history buffs, there was 2 towns in Rome across a bay, and he had basically his engineers build a bridge from one town to the other, and they were party towns, and he marched with his men all the way across one town, partied at that town, then came all the way back the next day and partied at that town, and he was popular with some people.
Yeah,
and he sounds like popular with me for doing that.
Yeah, he was definitely. But the thing about that is, it's like
that's crazy, right, Steve?
That is crazy because, like you said, dude, like 25 years old, you gain all this power, you have everything, free reign. He turned crazy. As a matter of fact, dude, he was like bedridden. I remember reading.
Yes, that's in the movie too. He gets sick. Yeah. That's actually in Caligula.
And that's real. He went crazy and mad because of all of the power. So you think about how much power you're getting. It's not just gonna be like you were saying before, Rob. It's like 300, where it's like a bunch of the Roman soldiers. They got spears, and sometimes it's just you're just going insane and you're doing some like unspeakable things. You know what I mean? Like on a far off island, way away from Rome. You know what I mean? Where nobody is really like, they're either kind of like going like whatever to it or anything else. So I don't really I've seen it now maybe 2.5 times. It's probably
I've seen it more than that. That's probably bad.
That's gonna be it. And then one of those times I saw with you like a decade ago when
I made him watch it with me.
Yeah, and I got shocked. But I guess now that I've seen it and I'm just like, I know
you saw the rated R version too.
I know, dude, and it's just like. I feel like that is so funny because the X-rated version or the what is it? The director's cut is completely like the director hates it because it's so tame. So it's like you can pick your poison. Do you guys like it, raw, the rated R in the
raw,
70s,
no protection at all.
No protection, dude. Like in a motel that.
I play close to the chest.
Yeah, or do you want it to be like, just playing close to the chest, Robert? Do you want it to be like, now this is something your parents don't want you to see?
Here's something that's for the ladies, okay? Donna, help me out here. Did you know, Donna, the childbirth scene in the movie is real?
I was going to bring that up. Was that real?
It is. It is. Yes. It was actually real. It was filmed with 3 different women that were really in labor that they filmed. Yeah. So, Donna, there's something. It's educational, Donna. It's educational too.
I want to know what they paid those women, those 3 women who were in active labor, to be recorded for a movie.
Okay.
They named their children Tiberius.
Oof. Again, Donna, I will just repeat, it was the 70s, so it's probably not as great as you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
This movie took 4 years to make.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, from like a woman's perspective, if someone comes in and says, "Hey, I want to record you while you're in labor," is that okay? I'm going to want something big because this is a big personal time for me.
Okay, I got it. So you want something big, like a house and like like a husband that takes care of you. So so you'd let that memory happen, right?
All right, let's cross-reference.
Okay, there you go.
Let's Google childbirth OnlyFans. Enter. It pops up, and we'll see what the rates probably are.
Right.
Yeah.
So that happened.
Yeah.
And it happened in the movie. So the movie's educational too, Donna. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's,
Educational.
I thought it was a great idea, just like how you had the great idea of tits on a silver platter. I think that was, brilliant.
What about when they took over Britain? Like that whole
Oh my God, I was just getting to that part.
Yeah.
Years just storming the beach, and it's just like, what?
So that really happened in a sense. So, okay, so there's two stories in history that supposedly happened. One is that he got to the beach, his soldiers mutinied because Britain at the time was like an unknown kind of like place, and they literally were like, this is like going to the fucking moon, bro. So that kind of worked. So that happened, or it really happened like kind of like in the insane way, which is he basically marched them there. And the story goes is he ordered them to attack the sea. That's like the account is that. And, I have to say, this is all written by guys who after they killed him. So it's like history is written by the victors, and so
it's never written by the dead people. So it's
I'm just telling you
how you feel it, and I feel like that's why there's two sides. It's like,
but there were stories that he brought back, reeds and said they were from Britain, and he brought back people that were from Britain, but they weren't really from Britain,
which is so funny.
He had a fake triumph. And I know you want to get to the brothel scene, right? Yes, that really was true too. That actually happened too. And in fact,
the Imperial brothel.
It's actually reported that happened. But what's even crazier is they drained a Roman lake sometime in the 20s, 30s. And basically they found that boat. And it was so elaborate. The pipes in it were made of gold. And they knew it was Caligula's because it had his initials on it. But this boat was tragically destroyed in World War II.
Oh, no.
So when they bombed the museum, basically they destroyed it. But yeah, it was actually a real thing. So, was it a brothel? Hey, that's what they reported. But, I think it's
Who's
great.
To say?
Who's to say? I think it's great.
Yeah.
But they had the trials in there in which basically Tiberius, he said, there's an amnesty. He really did that. He really told everyone like, hey, there's a general amnesty. We're going to move forward. That really happened. And what's even more funnier is when he brings it back, that happened too in history. Basically, he was like, I didn't burn them. Like, he was like, you think I'm stupid? I burned some copies. I kept the original.
I didn't even know that.
What about when he went to jail? Like that whole scene when he went to he got locked up with all the people in the town or whatever, and then he got sent down that little slide, and they have that naked girl just kind of rolling around like being rolled around almost like a joint between all the inmates. And then I guess what was it? The one dude, I guess, did he recognize that was him in there? And when he saw his ring, his henchman.
Yeah. He's supposed to represent a slave because Caligula freed a lot of slaves, which again,
which is why he was popular.
Which is why he's popular, and he used to have a lot of slaves around him. You owed him his life, and owed them, blah blah blah, his life. And basically, that was who that was supposed to represent. Because I'm not 100% sure of the story, but I do know there was a situation in which a slave did save him, and he did keep him around, it was his loyal slave or whatever.
Yeah, it was his. It was one of the dudes, one of the main guys.
But yeah, that's the whole ring thing. That's how you would signify the power is his ring.
Yeah.
But I just want to point out too, I still love that part where he's just like bow, bow, out there in the rain. That part is fucking fantastic.
From what I think, I got to watch an hour of it. My favorite scene is the one you were talking about earlier, where they shove the pipe down the man's throat to make him drink wine.
Yes.
More wine.
Yes, more
Malt
wine.
wine.
My daughter was like, "What are you watching?" And I'm trying to explain it in a very under PG-13 way. And I told her
My
about that
hero.
part. And she's like, "That's absolutely disgusting. But cool. Can I watch it?" I'm like, "No."
This is uncensored history, is what yeah.
It really is, Steve. And you know,
really- yeah.
Tiberius's life is a dark point of history.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
his what he did was dark.
Because
Yeah,
how
Caligula
else
was
would you,
dark.
if you're going to make a
Yeah, but-
film like this, how else are you truly going to do it?
That's
Like,
what I was
ask
getting
your,
at.
ask. That's what I really.
Sure.
That's my whole crux to people who are like, "This is just nothing but smut, nothing else. It's just a porno from the '70s." I'm like, well, there's elements that make it a film. There are name actors now, but at the time they were name actors still. Peter O'Toole, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like they were established, so they had the people that were doing a good job. This wasn't just a trash movie. You know what I mean? For the
Yeah.
same of it, Rob,
That's
it's
what I'm
like this
getting at,
has
man.
elements that make it good. It's just for people that the smut thing is a give or
It's
take.
a distracting thing.
It's a
Very
distraction.
controversial.
Yeah, it's very for sure. But I also feel like we're talking about it today, as many other people are, for this
Yeah.
for the fact of it is something that stands the test of time. And this is another one of these things, dude. This film can never be made again, no matter what they do.
Fuck
You can't
no.
make Caligula, rated R in today's standards, dude. It would just be like a bunch of nothing. They would just like maybe do innuendos. You wouldn't see anything. They would just tone it down, and you had to be crazy. You had to have
You
a
have
mad
Donna at the theaters protesting it.
in 1979.
Yeah,
Going
like
on.
what they moved.
Truly like beheading horses. Make your movie. Make your movie.
So wait, if they don't behead the horse, make the movie?
No, as long as there's not animal cruelty, make the fucking movie.
Oh, okay. So you hate
know-
The Godfather and Cannibal
Do not
Holocaust.
don't see any Italian.
She's
horror
seen
films from the
Cannibal
70s.
Holocaust.
Yeah, don't see any Italian horrors from the 70s.
That's
Then.
the movie I was asking you about the other day.
Oh, Ape? Steve
No,
told
the
you.
Cannibal
So-
Holocaust. That's the name of the
Oh.
movie. That's the name of it.
Oh, okay.
We got to
See,
talking about it.
And we're
I
bringing
couldn't
that up again, and it's actually it kind of is it is actually relevant to this movie too, because you know I want to reiterate that too. This movie is artful. There is a lot of great stuff in it. However, yes, if you really are so, you know, I guess I don't know, just about it. Yeah, I guess the sex bothers you, then it does, unfortunately. But for some, it is a distraction from the actual film.
Here's my thing, and this is more of a serious take, and I say this on my show a lot, and that is the whole thing. If people want to be like, "Oh, it has a lot of sex. It has a lot of sex. It has a lot of sex." Is anybody in this room? Is anybody in this room a virgin? I mean, we like that's the thing. Like we all have sex.
Yeah.
Sex is
Kick
a part. Sex is
Speak
a
it,
part
Ray.
of life. Everything has sex. Animals have sex. Humans have sex. You know, everything has sex. It's there. And it's weird that like people are so down and frown upon that, and yeah, like it's something that exists and something that's out there, and for some reason it became taboo, but it's something that we all do. We could all sign off of this podcast and then just go have sex, like that's the whole thing, like and people.
I was just coming from an orgy before we went on this whole thing. You know what I'm saying?
Slap the blazer on. Started the.
Yeah.
Don't say my dad.
I had to live the life of Caligula before I
Yes.
could judge the film.
But you have to walk the horse
Rob
out,
comes
huh?
home. There's a bunch of naked men hammering rocks.
Hammering.
As he walks in through his front
Oh my
door.
God, Ray, tell me that was
Yeah.
not like you were buckled in after you seen that scene, because you're like in the opening, it's like, okay, shit. I know what I'm watching now.
The dude
Does
on
it
the
have to
stilts,
be
you're just like, wow.
completely naked next to someone to hammer rocks?
Let
Like,
me
you
ask
couldn't
you
put on-
something. Is it more realistic they made like clothes for all those slaves, or they were just like, get out there and fucking hammer rocks? I don't care if you're naked or not.
Yeah,
Right.
Every single one of those people that did those scenes, every single one, props for having to be around someone naked. And I think it got to the point, I read an article where they're just like, hey, can you pass the salt? Like they just got used to each other just being completely fucking naked. And I'm like, okay.
Hell.
Yeah, and that's so funny that you say that too, Donna, because
You know how many
it's a
times me and Steve have
controversial
done this
thing.
show without our pants on?
with our yeah.
I'm not wearing pants right now.
That's what I'm saying. So That's how you podcast, man.
Look, see?
Wait,
But
wait,
Caligula Part 2. But yeah, I just feel like, it's a controversial thing to say, dude, that society today is very sexualized and a lot of kids are
Yeah.
being exposed to that and everything. So when you have a film that, again, is art and art is objective and you can have your opinions about it one way or the other, this film is a part of that. And I've learned to accept that, because I'm not going to lie. Rob showed me it the first time, I was like, dude, this sucks. Like, you know what I mean? This is just straight up. I was one of those guys. I was like, it's just smut. Then after a while, after I was like, oh, it has a point to it. There are elements. It's not like I completely love it. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm completely oiled and naked when I'm watching it. But I am going like, I am only saying that for the body, I was by myself when I was watching it. But I feel like this is just one of those films, man. I'm like, yeah, it's just a historical film that has some elements of sexuality to it. You know what I mean? Like most people have. This isn't Troy with Brad Pitt. There are. This is
Could
something
you
that
imagine
really wanted.
if Troy was
That
like,
would
it was
be-
just people would be like, dude, did you see that fight between Achilles and dude? But they were naked the whole time. But that was an epic fight.
yeah.
man,
Hell,
they
you
make a
made-
lot of
That's
movies
so funny.
different.
It
though.
would be true. It would be true.
Like
Look,
Fight
what was
Club. Could you imagine Fight Club with everybody naked?
That will be
You would
Yes.
love that.
I could actually. I could do it. As crazy as he was, what happens if he said a law like that? Like everybody could be like, yeah, that was such a cool, badass scene, dude. What is the one scene that people talk about to this day when they talk about Titanic? Are they talking about Rose on the whatever, the old couple dying? No, they're talking about. Do you guys remember that scene where they're having sex in that car and he paints her naked? They make memes about it. It's just
Really?
things that happen,
I
bro.
was
Yeah, bro,
I was gonna say, Jack, I'm flying.
Yeah.
Mine-
No,
Titanic,
dude. They're
right
thinking about that steamy scene with the handprint on the whatever. I see it two ways, one or two ways. It's like you're either gonna love this film, you're hate it. There's no middle ground. But I do feel like it's
Yeah.
earned its place, man. It's earned its place as pushing the bar.
Absolutely, it has earned its place as pushing the bar because they didn't hold back. They were trying to do as absolutely historically as possible, and they're like, you know what? This is either going to be really good or it's going to fail. But let's go ahead and put it on picture and screw everybody else and what they think. Let's show them what it was really like because
Yeah. Well, I pose this to you guys. Would you do it different?
What, this movie?
Yeah. Would you do this different if you had the budget?
Dude,
same era, same
okay,
everything?
first of all, we're not giving enough credit to Tino Brass, man. I mean, this guy has made. We're gonna do a special on him, and we'll have Ray back for that because that guy has actually made some pretty.
A lot of stuff.
You could actually call them romantic films. They're erotic romantic films, but some of them are good. And I'm not gonna lie. When you're a movie critic like me and you've seen everything, you search for good stories in anything. Okay, at that point.
Well, I feel like with the way Caligula is I'm kind of always like when you watch a movie and you see a sex scene, like I watch it, I'm like I can't buy this. Like, but when I watched Caligula, I was like I can buy this because it looks real. But I guess maybe that's the wrestler in me of, when you do stuff in the ring, it needs to look real. You need to believe it. And that, I guess what that movie is, it's like there's a lot of
CGI, baby.
real elements to where you can believe that's what they're actually doing. Oh, they're actually having sex. Look, he's penetrating her. Like, that's just, the whole
Movie
thing.
magic.
yeah, it was
Movie
all
magic.
100% all go big or go home.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You're talking about that dick swing there. That's what you're talking about.
Whatever.
I don't remember that though in wrestling, keeping kayfabe alive, where there's some swinging dicks around. But definitely in here though.
I have a question for you guys. Do you think the actors would react differently with the sex scenes added in while they were filming and not after?
See, that's a good question because a lot of them didn't like what the movie turned out to be because it was ultimately Penthouse who did that, and that's what is interesting about the movie. And even recently, I sent you guys that article that Tito Brass is actually suing Penthouse because he doesn't like the cut they made of the movie.
Yeah.
He wants his cut of the film, Which, again, I'd be interested in seeing because any interpretation of this movie is interesting. Because, like I said, there is but I don't know. I wouldn't do it different. I think it's absolutely chaotic and crazy, and it represents a time and period where it's like, you don't want to talk about really that part. Well, look at this shit because this is pretty much what was going on.
Yeah.
Even with the wall that knocked all the heads off, like that wall at the end or whatever, that was just beheading dudes in the dirt. Like and they built that thing. That fucking whole thing was made from fucking scratch. They built that fucking giant contraption.
Yeah,
Like,
which is
there's some good
so
effects.
cool.
There is
That's
great
good
effects
stuff.
in that film.
That's some good stuff.
It is. I mean, it doesn't. Does it not look like Rome?
Yeah.
Even though I only made it an hour into it, like the effects that they took the time to do, like the three-faced lady, that took time.
Yeah.
That took a lot of fucking time for the 70s, you know?
So much
Also-
time that over 4 years they don't want to do it again and give her a more substantial role.
Those sculpted dick bananas. I sat there and I was like, how long did that
Yeah.
take?
A
That
long
was
time,
perfect.
Rob. That was a lot of detail on that, man. That was a
Like,
lot
I mean,
of
who
detail.
sat there and was like, okay, what are you making this for? Well, we're gonna give a banana to a baby, but we need it to look like a dick.
They didn't
Could you
sculpt
imagine
it. They
that
just gave it to one
conversation?
of the porn stars, and she just did that with her tongue in her mouth. That's
Oh yeah.
like literally. Like,
No, there's a part where he was
There
like
you go.
giving it, like handing it to the baby though. Like they were like, here, like. I'm
this
telling you. man.
banana or we'll smash your head on the steps.
Okay, let me ask. Okay, so we talked about our favorite. I haven't even said my favorite scene, but I want to actually get to what was the most controversial scene, Ray, you thought was in Caligula.
Oh,
Like,
those
what
guys-
were you? Was there any moment you were like, I know you get pushed a lot. Was there any moment you were either like, hey, whoa, this is like really far for me, or were you like, B, this is really far for other people?
I mean, for me, as I said, like I have a very like out there imagination. Like I don't really like not really a lot offends me. Like I have always been that type of person. But I think if anything, the stuff more like the childbirth, I think would be alarming if somebody didn't, because that to me, I was just kind of like, whoa, wait, like, and now that you said that it was real,
Right.
like I saw that and I was like, how the fuck, like what is that? And like now I know that like I don't have kids, so I've never seen live childbirth, but now I'm just kind of like, that's why that was so disturbing yet intriguing all at the same time, because I was like, how did they do this? And now I know. Today I learned.
I'm going to have to go back and look to see the childbirth scene because I have 2 kids. I never witnessed either one of mine because both of mine were both emergency C-sections, but I have witnessed childbirth. So now I want to go back and rewatch it just to see if it is like correct or if it's just completely like over exaggerated.
I don't know, you
Well,
just
it's
see
a
like
woman.
this sloth baby face, just like just hanging out there. at some point.
just phase out.
Just stargates out. Hello, mummy.
So Donna, what was the scene that made you turn it off?
Me,
Mm-hmm.
I made it past it, but then I did have to turn it off. But it was the scene right after they were hammering that stake into the woman, and then it shows the woman like being played with the what looked like barbed wire.
Okay.
You know, That
Oh yeah.
like-
God, you're so suburban.
I was like, okay, ow, 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 no, I can't do it, can't do it, can't do it. But now that you guys
Yeah.
are saying it's pretty accurate to history.
Well, mixed.
Yeah, it's a mixture of like, movie stuff and historical lore, but
It's more
I'm gonna-
accurate than Braveheart, and I'll keep saying that.
oh yeah.
I'm
But see,
gonna have-
therein lies the dilemma though. It's the big budgets versus this Italian guy that's like, I don't care about
Maybe someone
regulations. I'm doing
Do
whatever.
a super cut of
I'm thinking
Braveheart. Just
about
have a
that.
bunch of people and
Yeah.
fucking kilts, just railing each other, and all of a sudden they
Yeah.
just cut and have actual just Mel Gibson.
Yeah. The
You
one-
want actual Braveheart movie?
and like
This is
little history
based-
on this movie and everything. And I guess a lot of the actors didn't speak English.
Yeah.
Like all the statues didn't speak English, and it was just really hard for them to understand what was going
They
on. I was
taught
like,
that
"Me-
one chick, Ray, Britain. He's like, "Where are you from, Britain?" He's like,
Well, it's
nailed it.
funny because they also had that scene where the dude was bleeding and chicks like pick up like the blood, and she
That
starts rubbing the
was-
blood all over her pussy, and then they pee on the guy.
Right.
And I'm just kind of like, wait, like, okay, like I've seen porns, like I've had girls on my show on OnlyFans that have done this to people, like, but this was just randomly here, and why?
This is what OnlyFans. They probably watched this movie and was like, "Oh, I can do that."
Yes.
There is probably a lot of people out there taking notes on this film. I'm not gonna lie. They're gonna be like, now what can I do? Going back with a notepad, like they're Ray going like, so yeah, that scene right there, yeah, definitely that.
Steve,
They
what
need
was
to
the
do a porn
most?
parody of this.
Hey, what's up, Luke?
What up,
Ray,
guys?
Luke, Ray.
Ooh.
What's up,
Hey,
Luke?
everybody. What up?
So, Luke, thank you for joining us.
Of course.
Missed a large part of the show. I'm going to just ask your quick review of this great movie. No, it's actually been a good conversation. But let me go back though real quick because I want to get around to Steve. Steve, what was the most controversial part of this film you thought where it was too much for you?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it already. It was probably the childbirth that still kind of was like,
Really?
Yeah, a little
Me
bit.
and
I'm not
Donna are
gonna
like
lie.
whatever.
Yeah, I don't know why. Just seeing that like so visceral like that was a little like, dang.
I'm like,
dude, they went
whatever.
there.
Do not watch.
I'm like whatever. The most controversial thing that I thought personally that I was like, okay, this is like where even I'm like, dude, come on, is when he goes to the wedding, and yes, Caligula did do this, where he bangs the chicks, he bangs the guy, the bride, but then he brings the dude in and puts the dude on that table, and makes the bride watch as he basically gives him the fist of fury.
That's like a Friday night on my show, man.
I
That's
know,
what-
right? But I was like, for me, I was like, dude, you're literally punching a man in the ass at this point.
Yeah,
Like,
with the like whatever that lard.
I'm gonna pretend it was mashed potatoes.
Was it, dude? I thought the same thing. I was like, why does he have that there? What's going on here? I didn't understand. I'm not gonna lie, bro. When we first saw it, I didn't get it. I remember you just laughing hysterically.
Oh, I did. I
was like, wait, what? It took a minute. Like my brain was like, okay.
That's the only
he's doing
part.
what
I'm
he's
just
doing.
like,
He was deep, bro.
now Ray knows what I'm not into.
Yeah.
That was originally supposed to be sex, but Malcolm McDowell was like, "Yeah, no, that's not gonna happen."
Yeah. At least he put his foot down on something.
Hey, all controversies in all movies lead back to Malcolm McDowell. It's just a fact. All right, Luke, what do you think about Caligula?
That's the one we see Helen Mirren's tits, right? So
Yes.
Yes.
yeah, 5 stars.
And that's the show tonight, everybody.
Really? I thought Luke was going to have like something really deep.
Here's what I'm always brought about. Like, so this is made by Penthouse Films, the porn
Yeah.
people. But it was written by Gore Vidal. And if you don't know who Gore Vidal is, he is maybe one of the single most respected American intellectuals of the 20th century. Like,
Yes.
Gore Vidal is like, he is maybe the single smartest academic on American, like, domestic policy, foreign policy, history.
Preach it, Luke.
He's considered a literary genius. He was a forefront
That's why the dialogue is great.
of American progressive ideals. He wrote the screenplay, and then a porno studio decided to also make the movie. Like, that's like, this would be like if Neil deGrasse Tyson decided to work with Brazzers. Like, this is like,
Let's do it.
It's
Let's
true.
get those two together.
Let's get
which-
the
I'm
face.
just saying.
Yeah.
let's put this in the internet right now. Neil deGrasse Tyson, do a collab with Brazzers. I don't, whatever you want, but
Oh my god, I feel so bad for our female co-host right now. She's
It's
just
fine.
like in the corner of my screen, just like
You've never
Jesus.
bad for me to begin with. Why start now?
in fairness,
Because I get to drag you out in front of the audience. It's great.
for Vidal is that, like, basically Penthouse took the movie and they made it
Right.
their own thing. They based, which
That's
I think
yeah.
I don't know if you've probably talked about this because it was shared in the pre-notes that the original director is suing because basically
Yeah.
Penthouse just decided to make their own film. They,
Yeah.
you know, the director and Gore Vidal, they came into this with the idea of a very explicit, story about a corrupt one of the most famous corrupt Roman emperors. Clearly like sort of high art with the likes of Malcolm McDowell at the time, and then the Penthouse people were just like, we need more titties. So what do we? So
What?
You know what? They
film
can-
is
they
done
can-
by that? What film is hurt by more tits? I'm just saying. I know a lot of guys that watch films and like Game of Thrones. I know a lot of guys that were like, "Oh, dude, I love
Yeah.
Game of Thrones. All the tits."
Yeah,
You know,
right.
Female, you could never have too many tits, and that's coming from a
Thank
female
you.
perspective.
And
Yeah.
just
You're
like
welcome.
Luke said, it's Helen Mirren, for Christ's sakes. Like that is going to give you 3 stars.
70s.
immediately.
Oh yeah.
70s
Yeah,
Helen Mirren
70s, bro.
70s
Right, what were you
Helen
saying?
Mirren is insane. It's like,
Well,
holy
like-
Oh, hold
shit.
on.
It's top tier, man. That's pretty top tier.
Yeah.
With Caligula, I bet you every big name government person knows that movie and they worship that movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
any politician,
like,
they're just
yeah.
like, Caligula.
It's
You
an
know, when are we
insane
gonna
film.
get that? Luke, when are we gonna get that tweet of like?
It's
some
the
politician
erotic
going
Scarface.
Like, yeah, I know, right? They're gonna like tweet this film out and be like, one of my favorite movies of all time. They're just gonna caption
It's
it.
one
right?
of mine.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. It's this
Hey.
host. I love this film.
Caligula.
I just don't think
I
it's
don't know.
as crazy as people think. It
Well,
is.
compared to what we've seen, Steve, no, it's
maybe
not
that's
that
why.
crazy.
Yeah, maybe that's.
We've seen some crazy.
We've
We've seen
seen
films
some
that people said
stuff
are fucking
that-
haunted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
true.
we've seen films where they used real fucking untrained lions.
I need to fit because there's a
Go ahead.
yeah, I'm looking to watch because hopefully I'll have a chance to see I Claudius at some point, which is a very famous BBC miniseries. And the reason why is because the Emperor Claudius, he was the emperor that succeeded
Right.
Caligula. So
Yeah,
it was a very
yeah, we-
interesting story.
Yeah, that's what we do. Oh, sorry, we didn't go a little in depth to that. So yeah, the whole thing with Claudius, the reason he's like that is because Claudius was considered like, and it's probably just it's probably just historical, just demonizing. But he was said to be like he would drool, that he had a limp, that he was basically they said he was kind of a dope.
Yeah,
That's
which
basically
is
what
funny
it was.
because he was like infinitely a better emperor than Caligula.
Then he
Right.
was, and it's complete.
But the whole part of where basically like the story, the general story is yes, after they killed Caligula, they found Claudius cowering in the curtains, and basically he thought, oh shit, they're gonna kill me too. But then they were like, hail Claudius, Emperor of Rome! Like,
Did you guys
funny
talk
as that
about?
sounds?
Did
That's
you guys
how it
talk
kinda
about
went.
the fact that Caligula's assassination was the equivalent of if the president was killed by the Senate and half of Congress and his own security detail? And it was
No,
like
but we talked about the beautiful ending with the horse running at the end, where he's
Running
like,
he's gonna bury that horse. He's gonna bury that horse.
So I want to go over my favorite scenes before we wrap it up, though. So there's a few. The one that I think is really great, and I think I know like why Ray would say that this movie is for people that love power, is the part where he sits there and he goes after he's all in the jail and everything, and he comes back and he's like, "I am a god," and then he's like, "I want you all to vote on it right now." And basically, he's like, they're like, who? He's like, who says I'm, I say I'm a god, and they're like,
Yeah, and then everybody.
but then he goes, bah, bah, and they all start like bang, like like buying, whatever you want to say, bleating. That part is great. That part is great. The other great part, I think that's really good, and I know Steve, we've talked about this scene a lot, is I love when the dude is killing himself. And he's all like, you can't go. You're my friend, my only friend. And he's all like, how can I live in this world with this reptile? And he looks at Caligula and he's like, you will respect my friend always, won't you, reptile?
I've been saying reptile a lot more now after that movie.
Yeah.
Right?
My wife's coworkers as
Yeah.
reptiles earlier.
You got to say it like that, too. You'd be like, how can you hang out with that reptile. That's a great scene. The dance part, as funny as it sounds, and it in the beginning of that movie is also to me a really good scene because
That's funny, dude. That is
not only is it funny, but that's what Tiberius used to really do to Caligula. Because when Caligula was a kid, his parents, and he was called, you kept hearing the son of Gemellus. Gemellus was one of the Rome's like greatest celebrated generals. In fact, they thought he was going to be like the emperor. And what ended up happening basically is, after Tiberius supposedly killed him, he took him. But Caligula as a kid used to be trotted around in little soldier clothing. That's why he got the name Little Boots. And basically, he used to do a little dance for the soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
So that dance was, in a way, that was humiliating. That's why he's like, my dance? He's like, the one you used to do when you used to, when you were a child for the army. So that whole scene is hilarious because he's basically degrading him. And then, when he starts doing it to Claudius, he's like, stop that. It's such a great scene.
It is a great scene. That's a very good historical scene.
Okay, so let's go ahead and unfortunately we got to wrap this up here on this Let's Talk About. So, but we're going to go around and give this movie a score. So I'm going to start with Donna. Since you didn't finish the movie, I still want to, out of 10, what would you give this film?
Out of 10, 7.
So, really? A 7? Okay. Wow, you didn't even finish it, though.
I did finish it, but between the acting and the graphics and everything else, it deserves more props for it being in the 70s. Like, they didn't have CGI then. They did a lot of the makeup themselves and stuff like that. They deserve a lot more props than what they're being given.
Okay, well, let it be known to everyone who knows Donna that she gave a Penthouse film a 7 out of 10 stars.
Yeah.
The record's the longest porn.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not like modern Penthouse films that are just all CGI.
Steve, what would you give Caligula?
You know what? It's not far off from done. I'd probably give it a 7.9, closer to an 8. Probably a solid 7.9 out of 10. It's good. I feel like it was good. Probably won't see it again though.
Luke, what would you give Caligula?
I would give it 6 Helen Mirren breasts out of 10.
Yes.
Ray kind of has a split one. Ray, I want to know what you think of this as a film, and then as an erotic film, like a porn. What would you give it?
All right. So as a regular film, like me in general, I'm a big horror guy, like graphic, type stuff guy. I mean, Christ, I have Friday the 13th tattooed on my entire back. So as a film, I give it kind of an 8 out of 10 because you have that smut element, you have the whole brutality. There's just a lot of holes in various spots where like you kind of lose it a little bit. Like, and I guess what it was is the adding in the smut later, and just there were a lot of loops that you're just kind of like, wait a minute, why is this happening now? And as an erotic thing, I think it really like kind of shows what yesterday, today, and tomorrow kind of like, how do we know that the politicians aren't doing that? I mean, Christ, the guy was just caught in the Senate House banging another dude on a desk. Like, I mean, like that's the whole thing. Like, it shows like, hey, this is people, how promiscuous they are. And, the smut obviously was a 10 out of 10. You had some guy just randomly jerking off in a bucket just for some reason. Yeah. You had fisting. Yeah. Like, and I mean, you had orgies, gangbangs, all kinds of stuff just going on all at one time. And, even the whole, you didn't have stepbrother, stepsister. You had brother, sister. Like, so it anything that like someone that's into erotic stuff will be looking for is in that movie. So I would say a solid 10 for the erotic part of it.
Okay. I would actually give this movie, like, for me, it's a personal, and like I'm sure Steve is wondering, no, I like Quills more, Steve.
Okay. All right.
So I like Quills more. However, though, we'll bring Ray back for that movie.
Yeah,
that's a great movie too.
It's so weird, the trajectory of careers, because I think Jeffrey Rush has a way better career than Malcolm McDowell. Like these days, I was like, he didn't do anything wrong. Malcolm McDowell, like, let's just think, Helen Mirren and Malcolm McDowell were in the same Caligula, And Helen Mirren's doing way better.
Way better, yeah.
I have to believe that it's because Malcolm McDowell's probably an asshole. That's why.
I honestly give this movie an 8 because I think the overall premise of it, the story in which it's supposed to reflect such a dark period of Roman history that no one really wants to talk about, because no one really wants to talk about that the one of the emperors, the second emperor of Rome was fucking crazy after Augustus. No one wants to talk about that, especially towards the end. No one wants to talk about, like, they all say, like, the broad spectrum of what Caligula did, but they don't ever really want to talk about the detail of the shit he did. Like, and this movie kind of shows that. And even though it is a mixed bag of history, and yes, there is that what you would want to call smut or porn or whatever, I think it personally in this type of film adds an element that kind of needs to be there, because you're really talking about and like I said in the beginning, it could have been children, and that would have been far worse.
Yes.
So think about that. This movie actually brought it down a notch.
A lot of notches when you really go back and be like, Jesus Christ, like they
Right.
kept a lot out, Rob. We talked
They
about
kept
this
a
long
lot
time.
out.
We're just
Hopefully,
like, whoa.
hopefully nobody's like, hey, let's do it with the real deal.
I know,
Yeah, hopefully we
right?
don't get a Snyder cut of that. Like,
Yeah, I know,
Oh.
right? Yeah, right.
I get, yeah,
Right.
Prison.
So, this is going to be the Real Sharks podcast. Signing out. Actually, you know what? Before we go, Ray, where can people find your show?
Of course, you can find me on Pod Nation TV, on Roku and Fire TV. And of course, for any place else you want to find the podcast, go over to www.thehhpod.com. All of our episodes are hosted 100% live, each and every episode. You never know what to expect. You never know who's going to be there. So yeah, just make sure you go over, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We got all that bullshit. Not TikTok, because they suck. Fuck them.
And of course, this is your host, Rob, with Steve,
Yo.
Luke,
Yo.
Donna, saying to make sure you catch us on wherever podcasts are broadcast, and make sure you catch us on Fire and Roku TV and on Pod Nation TV. And we're saying good night, and we'll catch you on the flip side.